Morning, guys.
Your name?
Ralph Bednarczyk.
All right, Ralph, let's hear from you.
Sure thing. Well, guys, this morning I was terribly alarmed to find out that the biggest threat to any Met fan at this point has just reared kind of his ugly head, his big fat binder of emails and player comparisons in the form of Scott Boras. Scott Boras, according to FoxSports.com, Ken Rosenthal has had talks and been in contact with Jose Reyes about becoming his agent starting this coming winter. Gee, thanks, Scott. As if the Mets had not enough of Scott Boras at this point, but now we're looking at having Oliver Perez and Carlos Beltran, of course, being off the books, and now the Mets may have to deal with Scott Boras into next year. As if the Mets are not handcuffed enough at this point, because the negotiations are going to be dragged out into February of next year, and you know the Mets are handcuffed even more so than the adult store here in the Westchester Mall. The Mets at this juncture cannot deal with this guy anymore and just need to move on. So what's the long-term repercussion at this point? Well, clearly the Mets have to realize that Boras, his history is there is no contract negotiation during the season. We go into free agency, and we're going to line up a big fat contract. And this tells you something, too, about Jose Reyes, that he is really not thinking about being here with the Mets. He is thinking about cashing in. He's thinking about number one, and then hopefully a lot of zeros at the very end of that idea here. So for Jose Reyes, what's to do here for the Mets? You know you have Boras in the way up until the wintertime. Maybe the idea is be the proactive people and start to think about trading him, because either way, you know he's going to be available sometime next February in a negotiating ploy. You may as well just deal now, move on with it, because at this point, Boras and Reyes are just not worth the trouble when you're in the rebuilding phase that the New York Mets are in. And if Boras and the Mets come together again, typically it's spelled out to be pretty bad stuff. I don't think that's going to change again this time around.
Thank you very much, Ralph.